and welcome to Talking Tullahoma, a weekly podcast recapping the week's news, talking to the newsmakers, and looking ahead to upcoming events. I'm Kelly Lepchinsky, and today I'm dropping in on two public events that happened this week, the City School Board meeting and the Downtown Arts Crawl. After the interview, stay tuned to hear about events that are on tap in the weeks ahead. But first, here's a look back at the week ending Friday, October 24th. Now, first up, there is a familiar scam making the rounds again. It's one I covered extensively on Channel 6 News, so if you followed me here from television, well, first, thank you, and second, you've heard this before. But someone will be hearing it for the first time, and they need to. This is a scam that just won't die because it works. Now, if you get a phone call from someone who says they're local law enforcement and that you are in trouble, you're likely to pay attention. And scammers count on the fact that once you're paying attention, you're also likely to pay a fine. They'll tell you that you've got an outstanding warrant or that you've missed jury duty. And if you want to avoid being arrested, you need to pay a penalty. Well, let's stop right there. The first thing to know is that no local law enforcement agency is going to call you to ask you for payment over the phone. And the second thing to know if you get one of these calls is that even if, for any reason, you actually do owe some money for a fine, you will never be asked to pay for it with a gift card or through an online app like Venmo or PayPal. Payments that can't be traced or stopped are always a sign of a scam. Now, if you receive one of these calls, hang up. If you have any reason to think the call may be legitimate, you can find a publicly posted phone number for the relevant police station or the sheriff's office and call them back. But never, ever call the number that was given to you during a suspicious phone call. Now, there are a number of variations on this scam, but your response should always be the same. Don't give out any personal information, hang up, and call a trusted phone number to verify. On Monday, the Tullahoma Planning Commission held a marathon session, spending nearly 3 hours on questions that should have taken much less time. Now, only one of the items on the agenda brought with it any public resistance, and that single item took more than an hour. But it shouldn't have. When the public has an issue with a planned development, rarely do they understand that the Planning Commission's job is to deny plans that don't follow the rules. But if a preliminary plat does follow the rules, their hands are tied. Legally, they must approve the plan regardless of whether it is popular. If they don't, they have to identify where the plan has failed to follow the rules. The Commission can't even delay its approval. By state law, they have 60 days to act, or their silence is considered approval. Now, public input cannot change a plat that's in compliance. The only real effect of public input at this stage is to ensure that issues are noticed and addressed as the plan moves forward, and that is good. That has an effect over time. For example, years of complaints about Tullahoma's stormwater issues have led to tighter regulations that will have to be followed when the city engineers get involved in the next stage. And that's the point. Automatic planning approval does not make construction a done deal. It just pushes the project to that next stage. Now, there are many things that happen in the stage between the preliminary plat and the final one, and many of the issues that were brought up by the public on Monday night can only be addressed after the preliminary plat is approved. That's because those concerns are addressed by other offices. The city engineer, the stormwater engineer, and the public works department don't put the cart before the horse. It would be a lot of unnecessary work and expense to perform, say, a wetland study on an area that wouldn't even meet the basic requirements for infrastructure. The Planning Commission gives those departments the go-ahead. Their approval says, yes, the basic requirements are met, and now it's worth the time and the money to study the land. Now, as I said, it's understandable when citizens don't know the full process, but it's less understandable when the commissioners don't appear to. A compliant preliminary plat should have been approved in minutes. Instead, despite multiple reminders from the planning director and the city attorney, it was an hour and 10 minutes of confusion before the plat was eventually approved, and 2 members of the audience had to be subtly escorted out of the room by officers. On Tuesday, Tullahoma City Schools recognized two former teachers with the Clyde W. Smith Jr. Leadership Award. Dan and Carolyn Thomas retired from their respective teaching posts after the 2011 school year. Dan from his position as social studies teacher and basketball coach at East Middle, and Carolyn from several grade levels at Robert E. Lee Elementary. The school board unanimously selected the couple in August to become the 26th and 27th recipients of the Leadership Award. Now, this week's reception for them was held just prior to the monthly school board meeting, which this month was also the night that the school board would vote on a controversial new flag policy, a policy that prohibits any flag from being flown on school property that is not a state flag, national flag, or directly related to the curriculum. Now, in the days before that meeting, more than 1,400 people signed one of two petitions, and the signatures were split roughly evenly between eliminating personal flags or protecting them. At the meeting, both sides were heard, and in the end, the school board voted unanimously in favor of a new policy limiting flags, posters, and banners on school campuses. To hear the full text of the policy, today we'll drop in on the school board meeting. We join the discussion after the 15th and final public speaker has concluded her remarks. Chairman Kim Usselton begins the recording. The policy is read by Pat Welsh. His follow-up question is answered by Director of Schools Katrine Stevens, and a comment is made by Andy Witt.
Okay, that's everybody. Thank you all for speaking. We really appreciate you being here. If you have sent us an email, called us, we pay attention, we have listened and read.
In order to regulate flags and other displays, examples being banners, pennants, digital signs, etc., on any / all campuses within Tullahoma City Schools, and to ensure a conducive and respectful educational environment, the following guidelines have been established. No flag or other displays, examples banners, pennants, digital signs, etc., other than that of the United States of America and the state of Tennessee may be displayed in or on Tullahoma City school buildings, including classrooms unless it's an official country, state, TCS school, higher education, post-secondary institution, or United States military branch flag used solely for educational purposes. Any other flags or other displays, examples banners, pennants, digital signs, including but not limited to political, cultural, or personal, are prohibited from being displayed in or on Tullahoma City school buildings unless it is directly related to the curriculum or other school-sanctioned event or program. The American flag and state flag shall be displayed in accordance with proper flag etiquette as outlined by the United States Flag Code and applicable state regulations. The display of flags shall be maintained in good condition and replaced when necessary to ensure proper representation and respect. Any requests for exceptions to this policy must be submitted in writing to the principal designee for consideration. Organization, club, team sponsors, or coaches must submit for exceptions to display any flags connected to their team, club, or organization. Within this written request, a clear image of the flag or other display shall be provided along with clear justification for the requested exception, how it connects directly to club, organization, team, or classroom, and the duration for the display. If the principal designee denies the request, this can be appealed to the director of schools designee within 5 business days of the original denial. The director of schools or their designee will respond to the appeal request in writing with a decision within 5 business days. The director of schools or designee decision will be final. Any approved request may be revoked by the principal or designee in the event of significant or material disruption within the school day. The superintendent, in collaboration with school administrators, shall oversee the implementation of this policy across all Tullahoma City school buildings. School personnel shall ensure compliance with this policy and address any violations promptly and appropriately. Educational initiatives may be undertaken to inform students, staff, and the broader school community about the significance and proper display of the American flag, the Tennessee state flag, as well as the rationale behind this policy, if applicable.
Thank you for reading.
This can't happen overnight. At what point, what's our goal time-wise?
So in the study session, you all recognize that this is a lot. And we are midway in semester 1, and we have our walls and halls adorned with flags, banners, posters, etc. So the first thing that has to happen is for the leadership team, if this policy is approved as is or with whatever modification, however that ends, if it goes through, we have to train the leaders in this policy. That would happen at the end of the month when the leadership team meets. Following that, the leadership team, the principals, assistant principals, those in buildings of TCS, have to go back and train their staff in the policy. Go over, as you did so succinctly, all the things that are allowable that are directly connected to this policy, curriculum, and instruction. Then educators have to identify those things that do not connect immediately to look at that exception rule. And if they choose to submit an exception, they can do that. So it's going to take some time. You know, we talked about we would love to see this fully implemented across all buildings, classrooms, etc. by winter break. And several of you thought that's probably a bit lofty of a goal. So we would hope that we would be into our second semester being compliant. It will be something that we're working on. Some of our buildings are quite large with many spaces, and we have to go through that very methodically.
Thank you.
I think another thing that we discussed in our study session is why did TCS feel that the policies that were adopted by the other two districts, why did they not feel that they were the best thing for our school system? Not to discount theirs, but why did we feel like we needed to look at something more? And I think that you may not notice when you go into schools, but after you start thinking about flags, banners, displays, and you walk into a school, and I'm particularly thinking about an elementary school that I was in a couple of weeks ago. I was in their gym, and their gym probably has 10 huge flags going across it. And they're actually, one of them says Team USA, and their UTC flag, and there's lots of college flags. And that actually is promotion, and how would you describe that as far as being like curriculum related?
So when you think about an educational organization, there is a desire and hope that you will facilitate dreams and future thinking about what I want to be and where I want to go post high school. So do I want to join TCAT? Is there a university that's calling out to me? And so we see that visual as a helpful image for our young children to be thinking about what they want to be, where they want to go. And it also is certainly pride in our educators who have attended an array of universities. Those of you here this morning heard about a university that a few of us share that's very special to us. And that's important, and it shows some of our own education and pursuits.
So if you're saying, if your policy only specifically stated that you were going to allow the United States flag and the state of Tennessee flag, all of those kinds of things would have to be removed. And particularly in an elementary school, there's not much space where there isn't something. There isn't something wonderful. Artwork, all of those kinds of things. But usually those are definitely tied to curriculum and standards. So we didn't, and neither did the committee and all the people that have worked on this, to go through and eliminate all of those things from a classroom. But you can't just specifically state that those are the flags you want. You have to be more specific so that you include the things that we know that we want our schools to have, right? We know we want those schools to have. And we knew that that process would take a while. And we did specifically ask the people that are going to have to implement this how they felt about the timetable and what all that entailed. And obviously, teachers know what their standards are, they know the curriculum, and they can glance around their classroom and immediately know these things are up because this is a standard I teach, or this is part of the curriculum. And so they'll pretty quickly be able to decide those things. Anybody else have anything? Okay, so the motion has been made.
I would like to make one comment, though.
Okay.
For everybody who came out here, I know Kim has already commented, but thank you all for coming out here, though, too. So it takes a lot of courage to get up there and talk, and so we appreciate comments. Heard a lot of very, very powerful comments.
Are we ready to vote? Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Ms. Stidham?
That's all in favor, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. So board policy 4.400 passed on a first and final reading. That now goes for TSBA, in front of TSBA, and they decide when they were able to look through everything, and that will be posted on our website.
That segment was edited for time and for clarity. If you'd like to hear the full discussion, you can find a link on the Tullahoma City Schools website, tcsedu.net. Now, while all of that was going on at the school administration building, downtown Tullahoma was also bustling with activity as the Arts Council presented what I believe was the 4th Downtown Arts Crawl. I can only verify back to 2022, but whenever the event began, there is no question that this year was the biggest yet. Last year, roughly 40 artists participated. This year, that number nearly doubled. And with roughly the same number of participating venues, the additional artists were sharing space. There were musicians and singers or dancers in nearly every space that also hosted a visual artist. Now, those additions and the large crowd made for some wonderful strolling, but it wasn't particularly conducive to recording an interview for the podcast. That said, I did manage to wrangle a member of the Arts Council out onto the sidewalk while I was making the rounds. So today, artist Noel Clements tells us more about the event.
Every year in October, we invite artists to come to show their work and to perform in businesses downtown. This year we have 19 businesses and nearly 70 artists, and they'll be selling and showing and chatting with people about art. It's free and open to the public. This is a committee that's a part of the city, and that's why we're able to do this for the public for free. We reach out to artists in the local area and through word of mouth, and that's how we find them, and they respond and say, well, yeah, I'm good for showing this year. If you're interested in participating in the Arts Crawl, then you can reach out to the Arts Council of Tullahoma. There is a Facebook page and there is a website, but the Facebook page is probably the best place to reach out to people.
Noel Clements is a prize-winning artist himself who specializes in oil paintings. His work has been exhibited across Tennessee and Mississippi. Now, while I would have loved to speak to a few more artists, it's a testament to the success of the event this year that I was not able to. If you missed the Arts Crawl this year, mark your calendar for the 3rd Tuesday of October next year. On Wednesday this week, Coffee County trustee John Marchesoni announced his bid for re-election in the upcoming county primary. Marchesoni has been the steward of taxpayer money in Coffee County since 2014. The primary election is set for May 5th. And fans of the Heaven in Your Mouth food truck should keep their eyes open for a new brick-and-mortar kitchen just off the square in Manchester. Dan and Leanne Dunford are in the process of setting the menu and the operating hours for their new location at 116 South Spring Street. All the menu mainstays will be there, the steak burgers, flatbread pizzas, and deli-sliced sandwiches, but new items will each get their own turn, and favorites will earn a spot on the regular rotation. The owners have also bought a new pizza oven, so genuine stone-fired pizza will make its return to the Manchester Square. Seating will be limited, though. Like the food truck, the business will primarily cater to to-go orders. And on Friday morning, after this podcast has gone live, the Tullahoma Police Department will bid farewell to one of its own. K-9 Officer Storm is retiring after 6 years in law enforcement. Storm came to Tullahoma from Warren County 2 years ago with his handler, Corporal Derek Bowles. During his career, he was involved in arrests that led to both state and federal convictions. Storm was relieved of duty in March after a career-ending medical diagnosis, and his ownership was transferred to Officer Bowles. Storm's retirement ceremony will begin at 10 o'clock Friday morning at police headquarters. Now, it's time to talk about Halloween in Tullahoma. Usually, I tell you about events at least a week before they happen so that they aren't over by the time you listen to the podcast. But even though Halloween is next Friday, and I should be right on schedule to tell you about events that are happening next weekend, many Halloween events are happening this weekend in connection to Sunday services at the churches that are hosting them. Well, if I'm going to list all the trunk or treat events in this episode, we might as well settle in for a seasonal book review, too. So this week, I'm dipping into the archives again for a classic. In 2022, Library Board member Kathy Rose shared the scariest book that she has ever read, one written by an author that you know if you remember reading The Lottery in high school. If you thought drawing rocks to decide which town person was going to be stoned to death was a chilling story, just wait until you read Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House.
In the story, there are 4 people who have come to this abandoned mansion that has a reputation, Hill House. Dr. Montague is a man who studies the paranormal, and he wants to bring some people together who are sensitive to these types of phenomena to see what the reaction is, to see if he can come up with solid proof that there's such a thing as ghosts. So the 2 women he invites to the house, Theodora, just Theodora, that's what she goes by, and Eleanor, it's kind of a approaching middle-age, mousy kind of woman, have both had some experience. Theodora's got a little bit of ESP, and Eleanor had an experience with a poltergeist when she was a child. So they have been invited to this house, and along with them comes Luke, who is the ne'er-do-well heir-to-be of Hill House, and he's looking to see what he can do, to turn a quick buck on it. Hill House has a life of its own. It's not what you see, it's what you hear coming down the hall, getting louder. It's what bangs on your door. It's the cold spot that you walk through on the way to the dining room. Things that can't be explained and really can't be seen, but they're there. When I was in junior high, I read this thing in broad daylight, and it scared me to death. And believe you me, I read The Exorcist, and while it was pretty terrifying, didn't scare me as bad as this one did. Shirley Jackson is right up there with Stephen King and Edgar Allan Poe and Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley and everybody who ever sat down to pen a story to give you goosebumps and make you wonder what's on the other side of that door. It's a pretty good Halloween read if you're not afraid to read it.
Now, just so you know, Kathy says the story is much scarier on the page than in any of the movies or the TV shows that have been based on it. And after reading The Lottery, I think I'm going to pass on that one. But while you're thinking about whether you're up for it, let's get to some of those timely Halloween events. Here's a look at what's happening. Now, since I'm already including this weekend, I'll remind you that South Jackson will screen Nightmare Before Christmas at 7:30 Friday night, this Friday night, the 24th, and Bram Stoker's Dracula at 7:30 this Saturday night. Admission is $8 each night, and both screenings follow the Spirits Walk and Ghost Stories, which start at 6:15. Tickets for that event are $25, and the Spirits Tour is hosted by the Highland Rim Scottish Society. Wesley Heights United Methodist Church will hold its Trunk or Treat on East Lincoln Street, complete with free hot dogs, popcorn, games, and treats from 2 till 4 this Sunday, the 26th. The Cedar Lane Church of Christ is also hosting its Trunk or Treat this Sunday. That event will feature hot dogs, face painting, a photo booth, and pumpkin crafts starting at 5. On Tuesday the 28th, Motlow College Athletics will host a Trunk or Treat in the gym parking lot on the Moore County campus. That event will include bounce houses and face painting from 4 till 7. St. Barnabas Episcopal Church on East Lincoln Street will host a spooky organ concert as part of its Trunk or Treat on Wednesday the 29th from 6 until 8. And Redemption to the Nations Church on Anderson Street will also host its Trunk or Treat on Wednesday the 29th with games, food, a bounce house, a bonfire, and a cake walk from 6 till 8. On Halloween, Friday the 31st, First Baptist will host its Fall Festival on East Grundy Street with games, treats, and food for the whole family from 4 to 6. And finally, Downtown Merchants will host their annual Trunk or Treat on Halloween from 3 to 5. And then they'll hand the baton to the Parks and Recreation Department, which will host a Trunk or Treat at Fraser McEwen Park starting at 5. Costumes are a part of the fun and are your ticket to all of the goodies. Now, looking beyond Halloween, if you haven't registered for the 5th annual Wobble Gobble 5K yet, you missed the last opportunity to get early bird pricing. But you can still register right up until race day for the full $40 entry fee. Race day is the Saturday before Thanksgiving this year, November 22nd, and you can register online at runsignup.com. Tickets are on sale now for the Tullahoma Daycare Center's annual Tour of Homes. Spend the afternoon exploring 4 great Tullahoma properties between 1 and 5 o'clock on Sunday, December 7th. And while you make your way between the homes, stop at the Atlantic to kick off your holiday shopping at the silent auction. Tickets are $25, and you can get them online at tullahomadaycare.com. And that's what's happening. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Talking Tullahoma. If you've got a story or an event that you'd like to share on the podcast, call and leave me a message at 571-7186 or email news@lighttube.net. I'll be back soon with more of what makes Tullahoma tick. Until then, you can listen to Talking Tullahoma on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. New episodes drop on Thursdays. Please like and subscribe. For the video version, follow us on YouTube. Just search for TUA LightTube. I'm Kelly Lepchinsky. Catch you next week.